Welcome to the Rocker Skating Podcast, sponsored by John Wilson Blades. I don't have to open a bottle of wine today because the pairs free skate was so good. And there was such good skating going on today, and it was happy to see, we were all happy to see how much this felt like a competition where people were out there to win, people were out there to skate their best and not really be afraid. We'll talk about how it all shook out, but it really was a really well skated event today, and I will not take anyone telling me that it was not a well skated event. But the final was Miura and Kihara moving up from a very disappointing short program to win their first Olympic title and Japan's first Olympic medal in pairs, and of course, Japan's first Olympic title in pairs. And I'll talk about the significance of this whole thing because, if you would have said to me 8 years ago that within a decade, there would be a Japanese pair who would win the Olympics, I would laugh. Everybody would laugh. I mean, the Japanese pairs game back in the day was not that strong. And Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara has just swung the doors wide open for not only Japanese skating, but Japanese pair skating. They are going to inspire so many skaters to be interested in pairs, to be picking up pairs, much like how Daisuke Takahashi and Kana Muramoto inspired a bunch of skaters to go into ice dance. And ice dance in Japan has had a longer history and has had a more celebrated history, right? With the Reeds, with Rita Muramoto, and then with Daisuke and Kana, and with Tim and Misato, right? Like, they have a history. Japanese pairs does not have a history at all. And I went back to my post from September 2019 when Megan Duhamel heard that I was coming to Toronto for Autumn Classic, and she said, "Hey, you got to come see this pair." And I was like, "Oh, interesting. She must be really excited about this pair." And then she was like, "Oh, it's a Japanese pair." And I'm like, "Oh, interesting. Japanese pair." And it turned out it was Riku and Ryuichi. And from the moment that I saw them skate, I was like, there's something really special about this pair. I'm not going to be the one who says that I knew they were going to be Olympic champions when I saw them in September 2019. I knew they were special. But little did I know how far they would come in a matter of 6.5 years to not only, right, be in their second Olympics and having won 2 world titles and 2 world silver medals, but to be able to be here and skate one of the epic programs in Olympic history in pair skating. It's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Let's talk about the whole pairs event because a lot of stuff happened. I'm going to do a little bit of a telling of what happened in the short program before we go into the free skate because I want to set that context for you all. The short program was yesterday. Good Lord, it was yesterday. And it was a very, I will still call it a very well skated event. And what was interesting about it was all of the vast majority of the well skatedness of the whole thing yesterday in the pair short program was earlier on in the event. The last group was less well skated, and I think that left a bit of a sour taste in people's mouths. But you got to look at what happened, and we're talking about, you know, just getting into the top 16 to qualify for the free skate. You needed a 64.65. That's what the Kovalevs got in 16th place. And just to get into the top 10, you needed a 69.08. Like, these are huge scores. And the reason they were huge scores is because so many of these teams skated clean programs. And add to the fact that Danilova Shiba and Golubieva Giotopoulos Mort both skated clean programs and didn't make it into the free skate. That's why I keep saying that this was a really well skated event. As an entirety, the depth of this set of short programs was just so strong. And you saw personal best, season best, like all over the place. And it's fun. But you got to the last group and all of a sudden you were like, oh no, like, yeah, they were getting big scores because they get big scores, but they were also not skating cleanly, right? Conti and Macii didn't skate a clean short. Metelkina and Berulava didn't skate a clean short. Miura and Kihara had a huge mistake on the lift that left them in 5th place, cost them like 11 points. And then you got then the final pair. It was Hase and Volodin, Minerva Hase and Nikita Volodin, who came and delivered. And they went into the free skate with a 4.5 point lead over Metelkina Berulava and an almost 7 point lead over Miura and Kihara. We knew, however, that a 7 point lead is not insurmountable given how Miura and Kihara can skate and can score. So that was how we ended that first day. And we also ended the first day with Leah Pereira, Trent Michaud over exceeding expectations and being in 3rd. And frankly, I thought they should have been 2nd after the short program. And Maria Pavlova and Alexei Sviatchenko being in 4th after also a clean program. I mean, they skate clean programs all the time, and that's what they do, and that's what they're known for. And that was how we started. And so fast forward 20 hours later, it was a very quick turnaround. Paris free skate happened, and we started off again with some very strong programs. The Kovalevs went and skated one of the best programs that they had skated all season, if not the best. Shatinia and Wozniak were beside themselves. I love this story because the moment I saw Yulia, she was like, "I'm here," and I'm like, "Oh right." She was supposed to have been in Beijing. She and Mark Magyar, who was her old partner, had qualified for the Beijing Olympics, and Mark Magyar got COVID right before the Olympics, and they had to withdraw. And so Yulia didn't get her chance to skate at an Olympics. And so for her to be here and also to skate that extra program in the team event, because Poland had qualified a team to the team event, they have just been having so much fun. Every single time I see the two of them, it's them just soaking up the whole environment, and they were they were just so good, and I loved that they were able to climb back up from what was a bit of a shaky start to their season and deliver the programs like this that they did. Um, so those 2 were fantastic, and that was how we started the free skate. And then we had Deanna and Max, and plenty of you know um, how this season has gone for Deanna Stellato and Maxime Deschamps, and you know that it's been a tough one. It's been full of inconsistencies, and then it's also been just generally kind of one maybe they wanted it too much, um, maybe it was just things were not clicking for them, right? And then they lost the title, their Canadian title at Canadian Nationals at the beginning of January, and you were like, "Ah, this is just like this season has just been so rough." And then Deanna Stellato has an accident 10 days before, well, like less than a week before they were about to go to Milan for the for the team event, and they had to withdraw from the team event, and we all were just like, "Is the dream over? Has Deanna Stellato lost her opportunity to become an Olympian after all this?" After the comeback from retirement, after switching countries, after doing everything under the sun that they could to make it to the Olympics and be one of the top pair teams in the world, was it over? And we found out it wasn't over, and it was just so amazing just to know that they have made it here. Like, I literally just kept being like, "I don't care if they even make it into free skate." Like, the fact that I mean, like, Deanna Stellato cares if she makes it to free skate, but I just the story could not have ended with them not making it to the Olympics, and it would have been just a cruel, cruel twist of fate, if that was what happened. And it wasn't, so we're good. But the short program was just like, oh my goodness, they had a freak fall on the end of their lift, which cost them 7 points, 8 points. I mean, they if you just looked at what happened in the short program, you add those points back to their score, they would have probably been in 3rd, maybe even a little bit higher. I don't know. Like, it you'll never know. We'll never know what happened, but what would have happened. But the fact of the matter is Deanna Stellato and Maxine Deschamps came and they made their Olympic experience. Their free skate was fine. They were struggling with the side by sides, but she really hard fall in warm up that the audience gasped at. And it was in that same corner, ironically, where she fell in the short program on the lift, and it was like, "Oh my gosh," phew, um, it was like, "Oh my god, déjà vu." And then they finished the program, and, uh, she said to Max, "I think I broke my nose, add that to the list." Turns out she hasn't broken her nose. She told me that the doctors looked at her nose, it was fine, just, like, sore, and it was bleeding a little bit. I think, um, I was talking to, Ting Cui, and she was saying that it looked like in her ending pose, Deanna was a w had, like, you know, done something in the ending pose where she hit her nose on Max, and she felt it right away. Uh, and so when they were hugging to celebrate the end of the program, she was also holding her nose. So that's what happened, but, like, again, add that to the list. But Deanna Stellato, and Maxime Deschamps end up 11th. They moved up a little bit, but the fact that they skated okay, but not great, but still didn't end up getting in the top 10 means that there was a lot of good skating to come. So, the next group gave us some really fun skating, and Hake Kunkel, Gilardi Ambrosini, the two crowd pleasers of this bunch, they went out there and did so well. And, Annika and Robert probably that was the performance of their career, totally underscored, especially on presentation. And then same thing with Gilardi Ambrosini. They skate a program that was not as difficult as everybody else's because they had watered down side by sides, over the past few years, but it was clean. They did a really great job. And again, the presentation scores should have been higher because they really do sell that program, and they didn't get the credit for it. Too bad. It was too bad for the scores, but it was great to see the two of them, these two teams, just go out there and skate the way that they did, and especially for Rebecca and Philo, this could have been their last performance, and for them to have done this in front of a home crowd and skated that well, I mean, you can't ask for much more than that. Um And then we ended that group with Emily Chan and Spencer Howe, and if anybody remembers US Nationals, you'd know that, 1, it was a very close race between them and, Audrey Shin and Balazs Nagy for that 2nd spot for the Olympic team, but 2, they left US Nationals kind of being like, "Ugh, like, is that the best we can do?" They moved up after the short program, but the free skate was still sort of like, "Okay, we can do better." And then they come here and they skate one of the best short programs they've ever skated. And then they will go to the free skate and they skate one of the best free skates that they've ever skated. It was just it was really good to see. The really big issue was Emily Chan falling on her solo triple toe, but they opened with a really nice triple sound double axe double axel. Might have been the first time I've ever seen them hit that combo anywhere, including practices? I might be wrong, but, um, begs the question as to why they're not doing the side-by-side triple sows in the short program because the sow has been really hitting for them. It hit for them in at nationals, and frankly, I that was the combo that got them to the Olympics. Like, if they hadn't done the triple sows and it was a triple I think they only did 1 double axel out of it, but if it weren't for that triple sow at nationals, they wouldn't be here right now, and they really made the best out of this event for them, and they end up 7th at the Olympics for a team who many, including me, expected to not be in the top 10. That was just a fantastic skate, and they really proved themselves here. Not only to the pundits, but also I think to themselves. I think they had doubted themselves after uh, Spencer Howe's surgery and the long time it took him to get his shoulder back in shape, all of that sort of stuff. And now they are a top 7 at the Olympics, and it's great to see. So that was the first 2 groups, and it was a it was a really good start to the event, but then we knew, yeah, we had 8 pairs who really all could lay it down, and, um, Sarakanti Nikomachi had probably the worst, skate of their Olympics. It was difficult, right? I watched her step out of her double axel, and I saw her knee buckle, and it was her right knee, right? Her right knee is the one that was injured a month and a half ago, and I my heart stopped a little bit because I was like, "Oh, what's gonna happen? Did she re-injure anything?" Luckily, everything else looked fine, but I do think she was a little bit cautious, and everything was just a little bit off, and there were a bunch of, um, errors, minor errors that all added up to a lot. And so a lot of them had expected them to be a lot of folks had expected them to be in the conversation for the medals, and all those mistakes just took them out of it, completely, but they were still the leaders with the last 7 left. And then the defending Olympic champions came on, and Wen Jingsui and Song Han were as good as we had seen them all season long, and even though Wen Jingsui had singled her triple toe, and then they elected to go with double Salchows instead of triple Salchows. Everything else was really good. The lifts were the best that we've seen all season from them. They were still small, they were still not to the same kind of quality that we had seen from them when they were at their best, but they were great, and it was really good to see if this was the last event that they have of their careers, they've gotta be proud that they were able to pull it all together for this individual event and finish in the top 5. So they were 5th here after all of that was said and done. And hilariously, in the mixed zone, Wen Jingsui, when they asked her, what was next for her, she said, "I can't wait to get into my mobile home with my pet meerkat and go around and sell coffee." Like, this is this is not a joke. Like, she has a pet meerkat, she has a mobile home, and this is what she wants to do. So, go buy some coffee from Wenjing Sui. I hope she makes some good coffee. I should I should see if she and Robert Kunkel are talking about coffee, because Robert Kunkel is a huge espresso nerd, and he and I talk about espresso all the time. Um, like, he has his own, like, barista setup in his hotel room every single time he travels to competitions that is like a professional setup. This guy is nuts about coffee, and, like, when I find people who are more knowledgeable about coffee than I am, it's kind of mind-blowing. I'm less knowledgeable about coffee as I am just a drinker of good coffee maybe, yeah. So so that was Sui and Han, and, they skated incredibly well, Cam and O'Shea, who went before them, had a couple mistakes. They ended up dropping. You can't take the team event, uh, heroics away from them. I know they have to be disappointed with how they skated here, uh, but they also finished in the top 10. They were 9th here, and 2 US pairs in the top 10. Who would have thought? So then it was time for Riku Miura and Ryushi Kihara. We knew what the stakes were. We knew what the deficit was. They knew what they had to do, and they knew they had to be clean in order for them to give themselves the best shot of contending for that gold medal. They had to be clean, and clean they were. They skated exactly like what we have seen from them all week. Confident, clean, everything was done spectacularly well. The only level they missed, the only little thing that was an issue was that they got a level 3 on their triple twist and not a level 4. They almost always get a level 3 on their triple twist. And it looked like it was probably the split that they didn't get credit for, because it looked like the catch was clean. So, um, that was the only thing. And this is better than how they skated in the team event. And we knew in the team event they got 155. And so we knew that this was going to be a better score, and the judges weren't going to hold back. And this is at their best the best pair in the world, and they gave them best pair in the world scores. It was a 158. I was kind of looking at those scores and being like, you could have gone to a 159. If they would have been last and they skated like that, they probably would have broken 160. They probably would have given them like 77 on their components. But you know, it, the one the 158 that they got meant that the only pair who could have overtaken them, given how the short programs went, were Hase Volodin. And Hase Volodin going with an 80-point short program meant that they needed to be like a 151, and they got a 149 at the Grand Prix final, something to that effect. And at the Grand Prix final, they were pretty much flawless. So that was going to be the gauntlet. That was going to be the standard that they set. I did not say anything or tell anyone, but I was pretty confident that that was your Olympic champions right there, because even if Minerva and Nikita had skated flawlessly, it would have still been tough for them to get that 150. It just, that's just how they've been scored, and the quality is not as high. Um, but we'll never know, I guess. That final group comes in, and Pavlova Spiatchenko yet again skates a clean program. Um, Not quite as free and open as they were in the short. There were some really great moments in that program, but they skated smaller today, and the lifts especially were not getting as much of that ice coverage. The side by sides were great, the throws were great, but it was the other things in there that kept them from getting a bigger score. Uh, and I think their improvements over the past season are very noticeable, and I think they're gonna keep going. And watch out these next 4 years. They keep improving like this. They really will be amongst that top group, because they can jump, they can throw, they can do all of that stuff, and they can do it consistently. And let's hope that they can get to that level of basics, and flow and glide and all that stuff that they've already been improving on. They finished fourth, and it was a great, great event for the Hungarians. Leah Pereira, Trent Michaud went next and just couldn't maintain what they had in the short program. Trent Michaud fell in his solo triple sow cow, and then there was a step out on the throw loop. So just, not what they did in the team event, left a lot of points on the table, and ended up in 8th place. It was a pretty big drop given the mistakes uh, and all that. And it was close, right, amongst those top teams. And so one huge mistake like they had with the side by side triple sow cow, and it was tough to recover from it. Um, and so we ended up with the final two. And Metelkina and Berulava have been known to fall apart in big, big, stressful pressure situations, and they did not today. They skated. The only thing that was an issue was a step out on the throw triple loop. Everything else was great. They did as well as really they could have done, and they set themselves up with Hase and Volodin left to go, they set themselves up to potentially win a silver medal because they go right behind Miura and Kihara, but it was right behind by 10 points, right? The gap was already there. But I did find out today, and I've been complaining about this all week, that the phone rings in the middle of their program and nobody answers it. I've been watching them do that program, and when the phone rings, Anastasia Metelkina actually has her right hand covering her right ear, and when the phone rings, she takes the hand off of her ear. So I take that to be her answering the phone. So Metelkina and Berulava, you answered the phone. Thank you. Uh, so we end up with the last skaters, right? Minerva and Nikita come on with they knew that there was a big score that went up for uh, Riku and Ryuichi. I can't imagine that they didn't know. They certainly heard that a 221 from Metelkina Berulava went behind Miura Kihara into second place. So they probably knew what they had to do. They probably knew they had to be flawless. And Minerva Hase puts her foot down on her opening side by side combo. And I feel like you could hear it in her brain, like, uh-oh, I'm not flawless and we're not flawless. And maybe at that point they already were, especially Minerva was already like, maybe the Olympic gold has slipped away. And it was a very quick 15-second turnaround to their next element, which was another solo jump. And Minerva goes and pops that triple sow cow. And it was very reminiscent of what we saw at the Grand Prix final in the short program, where she probably just overthought it. Um, and right there, the gold was gone and the silver was gone. They needed to be perfect to beat Miura Kihara, to have a chance to beat Miura Kihara, and they needed to not make a major mistake for them to still stay ahead of Metelkina Berulava, and they made a big mistake that popped sow cost them probably a good 4 or 5 points. Um, they got it together and skated the rest of it well, but still it wasn't the kind of effortlessness that we've seen from them. The lifts were fine, they weren't great. The, the throw triple loop, the one that she fell on at Europeans, it was a little bit tight. It was just like they held on to it, and they held on to that bronze medal, um, and it and they knew when they got off the ice that the the gold was gone. And likely the silver was gone, and they were hoping to be staying on the podium, and they did, and that was your top 3. Miura Kihara, again, with the historic gold medal for Japan. Metelkina Berulava with a historic silver medal for Georgia, the first ever medal for Georgia in figure skating. And then Hase Volodin wins bronze. And, Germany has had some decorated teams in the past. We know about Savchenko Musso, we know about Savchenko Zokoi, we know about Wurzel and Steuer. I know there are plenty others before that, but these are my era kinda skaters. Um, and Hase Volodin follow in the footsteps of these great teams, now they have an Olympic medal, and all 3 of these teams were just so happy to be on the podium, and obviously, Miura Kihara is so happy to be Olympic champions and to be able to overcome the blip from the short program to make it to the top of the podium. It was really it was it was funny watching, the leader's chair that was there, and that basically every time somebody passed by Miura and Kihara after they finished, they were sort of bowing to them, like, we're not worthy kind of bowing. Um, all of the skaters knew how well they skated, and that it really was one of the historic performances in pair skating. I mean, I was late to this podcast because I had watched it 3 times before I came on. Um, Riku Miura, Ryuichi Kihara, you are trailblazers, and you will inspire so many people in Japan, and I've had a lot of words here, but I really don't have words anymore. It was a really good event, and let's just hope that the pairs have cleansed the arena, and we have one final event left, and that's the women's event that starts tomorrow. Oh, it if the women's event is anything like what we expect it to be and what we have expected it to be all season long, it's going to be really good. And it all starts with a short program tomorrow, and then they have a break on Wednesday, and they will finish with the free skate on Thursday. It's going to be a fun one. Let's hope. Let's cross our fingers because these Olympics have been, as Olympics go, a little bit weird and a little bit really good. And count Miura Kihara's free skate as one of my favorite performances of the event, alongside Matteo Rizzo's free skate in the team event, alongside Piper Gillis and Paul Poirier's free dance in the individual event. I hope we have more memories. I hope we have more great skating coming up. All right, well, this is Jackie Wong, Chief Skate Nerd of RockerSkating.com. This Chief Skate Nerd, by the way, will be back on Gold Zone on Thursday on NBC Peacock in the US to talk about more things before the final event with the women's free skate. So stay tuned for that. Thanks again, always, to John Wilson Blade for their support, and to Tara Nichols for making me sound pretty decent, hopefully. And again, the women's short program is tomorrow, and let's get some sleep, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.